We basically nailed the electric car in 1899. What has not kept up is the battery technology. Nobody was sure exactly what kind of fuel was going to be the future. So there were gasoline cars, electric cars, and steam cars. Cadillac came out with the self-starter, and all you had to do was press a button, which was the same as on an electric car. That was pretty much the end of electricity because gasoline cars could go a lot farther. Most people overestimate how much range they're going to need. And that's nothing new. Everybody buys a pickup truck so it'll haul a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and they go to the lumberyard maybe once a year, if that. But I think the bigger problem is actually getting it to recharge. If you come home, it's depleted, it's going to be 4 hours, 8 hours on a 240 volt before you can go anywhere. Or even at a fast charger. You can, if you can find a fast charger, because they're very expensive and so they're very rare. 15 minutes to go from completely depleted to about 80%. If I'm on the 21st floor of a condo where there's only street parking and I can't run the cord across the sidewalk, someone tried to do that, it didn't work out. Whereas if you run out of gas, you go down the gas station, 5 minutes later you're good. So there's a lot of things we're going to have to work out to make electricity as convenient as gasoline is right now. This is where governments and to an extent, private companies have to get involved and look long-term rather than short-term. There's going to be a period of time where we're going to put in these stations and we're not going to have a lot of people using them. But we're not going to have a lot of people using them if we don't put them in the first place. People will only use things when it's convenient. Look at recycling. A huge number of people recycle. But if the city hadn't given them a blue box, and if the city didn't come and pick them up every Monday morning, do you think anybody would put their stuff out? Of course they wouldn't. You have to make it easy. You have to make it convenient. And that's the only way we're going to solve our mobility issues. Gas taxes pay for our roads. So if we have cars that are not buying gas, where are we going to get that money from? There's going to have to be certain taxes, allocation on it. We're looking at really turning our entire tax structure upside down. Let's say I plug into my house. How are you going to tax the electricity that goes into my car at a different rate than the electricity that goes into the light in my living room? We always have to think about the carbon footprint, and we have to accept that short of walking barefoot, nothing is free. Part of it involves where your electricity comes from. And although we are getting away from coal in North America, that is still an issue. We still have the issue of what we do with our nuclear waste. Right now we're burying it and hoping that in 500 or 1,000 years somebody figures out what to do with it. Manufacturing will always have a carbon footprint. You're still building a vehicle. And whether you're building an F-150 or you're building a Bolt, you still have to have your overhead, your fixed costs, which are things like the electricity to run the plant and to heat it, materials that you're putting into the vehicle, battery technology. And it's getting better, but it's a problem of physically, how do you put so much energy in something that is still small enough that it's not too heavy to cut into the range and that it's not too expensive? Lithium ion, well, it's a rare earth metal. It's available all over the world, but some of the largest deposits of it are in places like China and Bolivia. Maybe we're creating lithium cartels to take the place of our oil cartels. When you look at when the car came out in the late 1800s and then when it became more popular in the early 1900s, it changed everything. The suburbs, it led to highways. How does the city work for me? How does the rural area, how do the suburbs work for me with proper planning so that I may not have to use the car? Or I use the car for this, or I share the car with someone else. And so it becomes an ecosystem as opposed to me in my little pod. When you put one person in one pod, there just isn't enough room. You have to look at how do we get people here without bringing a car. We need walkable cities, which we don't have. Toronto's a perfect example of that. Look at all the pedestrians that get killed. We need better public transit. We need more convenient transit. And we also have to accept that there's sometimes where we have to go a little bit out of our way to save the planet. Maybe the bus only takes you within 2 blocks of your destination and you have to walk. We are going to have leadership and forward thinkers that have the nerve to go ahead and do this. And that's difficult because any politician, as soon as he or she is elected, the next thing they're doing is looking forward to the next election. And they know that if they do something that people don't like, they're not going to get in. And of course, the idea they had is going to go straight out the window. Where this gives us an opportunity now is to move forward with a whole new range of possibilities for mobility that, will they save the planet? I don't know. But there's certainly going to be a step in the right direction if we do it correctly. My name is Jil McIntosh. I'm an auto writer and reviewer working for such publications as the National Post and Autotrader.ca.